Hello crafty friends, working in my scrappy art journal today. The one page is a little too bright for what I have in mind, so I'm going to cover it up with some paper from an old book. I'm using a glue stick to stick this down. I'm also going to add a piece of the same paper on the right hand side, not the full area, just a small strip. I'm going to use a ruler to trim it to fit the page. I don't mind that it's a little bit torn and uneven. I do always like this rugged look, and as you can see, the rest of the journal, there's just bits hanging out everywhere. It's quite rough and ready, but that's the way I like it. I found these beautiful napkins a little while back and I've been dying to use one in a project. I'm going to tear it down to size. I'm not going to cover the entire area with the napkin, just a portion. Always remember to remove the underlayers of the napkin. You really only want the very top layer. I'm going to add the napkin to my page using Mod Podge. I'm going to put a layer of Mod Podge down first directly onto the paper, and then I'm going to place the napkin on top, trying to smooth it out as much as I can. There might be some wrinkles and some bubbles, that's always okay, but try and get it as smooth as possible. Once this is done, I'm going to add another layer of Mod Podge over the top of the napkin. If you don't have Mod Podge, you could also use gel medium or craft glue. Just work gently when you're painting over the napkin, as it's quite thin and fragile and it can easily tear. Make sure you dry this really well and then trim off the excess. For the right hand side page, I'm going to lift the napkin a bit and cut it shorter. I do like the spiral edge of the paper that I've got underneath to show. I think it adds great additional texture. I'm currently a little obsessed with this tissue paper from Dina Wakley. It came in a collage pack with all different prints, but these spots are absolutely my favorite and I've been using them a lot. I'm going to add them here too. I'm going to add just a couple of pieces. I love the design that they leave, and also there's so much you can do with them afterwards by adding color. I'm going to add these two with Mod Podge. As you can see, I do change my mind as I'm working. I was going to place this on the top. Now I'm going to place it from the bottom going up, but that is the way with these kind of intuitive projects. You normally let the page take you where it wants to go. I add a layer of Mod Podge over the top of the tissue paper too, and then dry everything well. Next, I'm going to add a layer of gesso. This is a step that I use in most of my mixed media. I like the way it makes everything more cohesive and it softens the edges. So I use my finger, you could also use a paintbrush, and I add it normally around the edges of the elements that I have placed down, trying to smooth them out. So as you can see, it's not just bits of things stuck down on the page. I believe that this gives it a very soft look and pushes everything into the background. And because the gesso isn't an even coverage, there's light and dark tones. As I was drying it, I realized the top area is quite white and I want to balance that out. So I'm going to make a bottom area with a bit more opaque white so it can balance out. For the next step, this is a little bit more of an experiment. I'm going to add some embossing, hoping to create some texture. So I have my cling stamp and some embossing ink, and I'm going to press that down onto certain parts of the page and then add my embossing powder. This didn't work as great as I'd hoped because the journal is quite chunky. When I pressed the cling stamp down, I didn't press quite hard enough, so the ink didn't make the design solid, if that makes sense. But there is some texture there, and it did give it a really nice effect that you'll see as I continue on. The embossing powder I'm using is just a translucent with a small iridescent fleck in it. It's really the only one I have besides a copper one that's a solid color, so I just used what I had. This really was just an experiment. Once the embossing powder has done its magic, I'm going to add some color. I'm using my color burst powder in the color orange. I just sprinkle some down and then spray water with my spray bottle. I also use a wet paintbrush to help move the color along. Try not to want to paint this too much. Do let the water and color flow its own way, so it's not just a flat color. It will create light and dark areas. It'll drip in some places, creates beautiful effects. You can lift up the book and move it around to help the liquid flow up or down. You could also use watercolors or watered down acrylic paints. I'm going to hold this up to the camera so you can see where the embossing powder print has resisted the color. So it's created a very subtle but beautiful texture. I don't want to overwork the background. I'm going to leave it there and work on my focal point. I have this beautiful printable from ShanoukiArt available on Etsy. I'll put a link in the description box below. I do love the colors of some of these circles that she's created. So I'm going to use this bright pink and orange one. I love that it's super bright and creates a great contrast. The little bright pink heart in the circle also spoke to me, so I'm going to use this one too. I'm going to keep this page quite simple, so I'm not going to put too many elements. So I'm going to start with these two and see if I'll need any more later. I do move them around a bit just to see where is the best placement. Once I'm happy with their location, I'm going to stick these down. Again, I'm just using Mod Podge because it's handy and it's in front of me on my desk, but you could use any kind of adhesive that you have. If you don't have any kind of focal point that's ready-made that you could print, you can always just make one. You could cut something out of a magazine, you could use a die cut, anything that you have. You could also hand draw something. There are quite a few options. To create balance across the pages, I'm going to bring some of the blue that is behind the heart shape to the left-hand side of the page, just by coloring in a few of the dots with an acrylic marker. I think this helps join both pages together so it looks as one. To add a bit of definition, I'm using a black fine liner pen to go around some of the circles and to create a more definite edge. I'm keeping it quite hand-drawn and rough. I don't want perfect circles. I'm going to do some mark making using a whiteout. Just a few small marks in the white to lift and lighten the whole page. I would really love if you subscribed to my channel. I have lots of these types of art journal pages. I also do junk journals, making ephemera, and this is also the home of the Full Deck Challenge. When you subscribe, also hit the little bell so you're notified every time I upload new content. I'm also going to add a little sentiment. It says shine your way. It's just a black sticker with white text, and I just move it around just to see the best placement for this. Once I've decided where I want it to be, I'm going to stick it down with some Mod Podge or any kind of glue. Although it's a sticker, because it's going on top of a whole lot of gesso and other mediums, I would advise putting some different kind of glue to make sure it adheres well. Using the black fine liner again, I'm going around the circles very roughly, trying to make the circles a little bigger and uneven to give it more of a hand-drawn look. And I'm also going around the little sentiment to not have the definite edge. I really hope you enjoyed this art journal page that I created and were inspired to create your own. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.